Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of our podcast. And today we are joined by Ashvin Melwani. Hey, Ashvin, how are you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Good, good, good. So, for the people that don't know you, I'm going to try to introduce you. And basically, you are the CMO at a CPG business in the health and beauty space called Obvi. And Obvi is a brand, is one of the fastest growing health and beauty brands from 2021. Tell me more about Obvi, first of all.
Definitely. So Obvi is, as you mentioned, a health and beauty brand. Um, we started around 2 years ago. We basically wanted to enter a niche that was kind of untouched, right? So collagen protein. Collagen is what your body is basically made up of. Your hair, skin, and nails. Basically the science says is that as you grow older, right, from the age of 20 on onwards, your body produces less and less collagen, right? Hence, your hair is starting to fall out, wrinkles, brittle nails. And so we basically wanted to kind of fix the stigma, which is collagen is for the older demographic, right?
Mm.
You kind of only take it as a reactive measure. But because what the science says is that you should be more proactive about increasing the amount of collagen that you're intaking, right? So we wanted to see how we could hit that younger demographic, that 25 to 35 age demographic. Hence, we started Avi. And as you can see, it's a very colorful brand. We went with the bright pink color. And some of our flavors that we started off with for our collagen protein are based on cereal flavors that you might be familiar with. Growing up gives you that nostalgic feeling. So yeah, no, we started with two SKUs, which was a fruity cereal flavored collagen protein and a Cinna cereal collagen protein. And within the first 3 weeks, we sold out. And I think it was at that point where we were like, okay, there's something here. There is a market for that younger demographic who needs collagen. It just has to come from the marketing, the packaging, the flavoring. And like I said, the stigma is it's for that older demographic, and a lot of these other brands are marketing their products to that demographic. So it's a little bit more medical rather than fun and bright and tasty.
So you really found like the perfect formula to bring something new to an audience that was almost untapped in this kind of space.
No, it was a pretty big risk, right?
Yeah,
If a lot of these big brands who've been around for 5 to 10 years haven't been able to tap into that market, how could we, right?
yeah, yeah.
But the way that my one of my co-founders put it, I mean, he's the one who designed the brand, right? He designed the labels, the packaging, the overall just the path for the brand. And he said, "Trust me, this is going to be it." It's one of those things where if you're scrolling through Instagram and you see something like this bright pink and bright blue, you're gonna stop scrolling. And that's all it really took is some good packaging. Bright packaging, and we spent almost a year in R&D perfecting the taste, right?
Mm.
Collagen in general is a very hard taste to mask, and I think we did a pretty good job of introducing really creative flavors to the protein, which allows that younger demographic to enjoy it instead of dreading taking it instead.
So that's actually a great story where you talk about it's more about the messaging and the packaging. So basically the marketing, right? It's really
Right.
about marketing and how you can present it to your customers. What was this something that you learned from your time within the agency? Because before Obvi, you were 5 years into an agency yourself. You had your own agency, and that's where you also helped other brands scale pretty fast. Does that come from there, or was it really something really new for you?
So this is To answer your question, there was a perfect example of when we were working with one of the last brands that we were working on the agency side. They were also in the supplement space, but more so for fitness. Um, for more like bodybuilding type
Mm.
demographic. And so their products were packaged more so along the hardcore line of bodybuilding. So a little bit more scarier packaging than
Yeah.
friendly like how we have it here. But they came to us. They needed some help with their marketing, and when we first started with them, they were probably doing 10 sales a day, if that.
Okay.
And we kind of sat down with them and said, listen, we're going to have to kind of help rebrand you a little bit, because this is that market is so tough to get into, unless you have contacts already. You already kind of built a name for yourself. But what we'll have to do is maybe rebrand you a little bit so that it's not as hardcore, but a little bit more friendlier, and that kind of opens up the demographic a little bit more, right?
Mm.
So again, my co-founder and partner, he redesigned their labels to a little bit more friendlier look. And I took a stab at the ads, and we went from, I think within, once we rebranded or relaunched, we went from maybe $300 to $500 a day to instantly $5,000 a day,
Wow.
just in the first week. And that's just because we were able to open up the targeting a little bit on the audiences, for our ads, reach a whole different demographic that was untouched by them, right? Because you've kind of almost closed off who you can market to with the
Mm.
way that your packaging is. But once you open it up and it's friendlier, it's suitable for Instagram, Facebook. People want to post it on their Instagram stories, something like that. That opens up opportunities, and it was a lot easier to scale that than that hardcore market, which is a lot smaller.
Yeah. You talk about a lot about community building as well. And this is something that I've seen time and time again, and a lot of people talk about, but it's so important to build your community around your brand so you can create that fan base around it. And you could do almost anything you want, right? Is that really the secret to fast scaling a brand?
I believe it is. I don't think we would be able to scale to the point that we are today without our customer base, right? Without being able to interact with them, um, at your touch of your fingers, right? I want to. We basically created a Facebook group, okay,
Mm.
when we first started. Sure, it was maybe 10, 20 people that were joining a week. Um, but once we started to scale a little bit more and require more customers, we were funneling people into the group, which is where people could kind of communicate, talk about the product, talk about how they're taking it, right? What recipes they're taking it with. And as we started to grow, it was like this snowball effect of people just joining this group, and we were able to communicate directly with our customers on a daily basis rather than sending an email, email marketing or SMS. It's not one way, it's a two-way conversation. We've become so involved in our community. People know who we are as founders.
Mm.
We talk with our customers almost every day. So we've cultivated this community that people want to be in, right? It's we've created a safe space for some of these women who are on a fitness goal, a fitness journey, or they're trying to reach their health goals, and they've become a part of this community where other people are doing the same thing, and they're able to help each other out, right? And we're able to provide a product that's helping them achieve their goals, and they feel like they're in the same space, and it's it's helped us see what we need to do to plan our brand's roadmap, right? If people are requesting certain flavors, people are
Mm.
saying, okay, well, this product is not as good as this one. We're taking all that feedback and, reformulating certain things. We're replanning certain things based on what our community wants. And that in turn increases our customer lifetime value, right? Um, I'm sure as you are aware, ad costs are going up and they'll continue to go up. Customer acquisition is not profit generation anymore. It's literally just acquiring customers. And how are you able to kind of get them to come back is the key. And we figured out the exact formula of how to do that, and that's just building a community, and investing in getting admins and moderators and creating content calendars of what we can provide to our community free of charge, right? Obviously we're not charging to be in the community, but there's got to be a lot of content that is curated for these people to absorb and ingest, and that's what keeps them around. They're like, yeah, we can go to another brand and get another collagen, which is more or less the same formula, and we'll do the same thing. But when you're purchasing from us, you're entering a community and an experience that you can't get anywhere else. So I think it's massive.
Creating that experience is so important, and I think this is true for any kind of a business, not only for e-com brands, but also for any business that wants to be able to tap into their community of customers, right? And it sounds like more and more that you guys are also like creating a marketing agency within your brand, like all these things that's going on that you have to create. It's content marketing. It's all of the pieces that come together again, which you have been doing before anyway. So it's kind of an inception. But tell me more about, like, you're talking about your co-founder, and you work together in the agency as well, right?
Yeah, so it's myself and then two other partners. One, his name is Ankit. He's basically the designer, the brainchild. Like he's created the branding for almost 25 different brands, and especially Obvi, which is his baby. And then my other partner, Ron, he's the CEO of the brand, and he's just incredible. He's just a visionary. He's so his attention to detail is just incredible, and he's kind of created the pathway to allow us to grow to the next level.
So if you started with a marketing agency and you left that behind, you're talking about in your interview notes about how your marketing agency was like going to college, and now with the brand, it's like graduating almost, like doing your thesis. Explain me a little bit more about that. How did it change your view of doing business or building businesses from an agency into a real brand, an e-com brand?
Yeah, no, that's it. So that little tidbit, my partner came up with that, right? When we first started working together, maybe 6-7 years ago, we worked at a startup, which was another supplement company, but that was our full-time job. So we learned a lot. And at the time, this was like one of the fastest growing startups of its time back in 2016, 2015. After that is when we started the agency. And then after the agency is when we started Obvi. So that first startup was like going to high school. And this is what my partner says. He loves to say this. He says the startup is like us going to high school. The agency is like going to college, and then our brand Obvi is like writing the final thesis. So you pick up a little bit of everything from every step of the state or your life. And after the agency, which was really working on 25 plus brands, helping them scale up and learning the different parts of their business, whether it's like supply chain, which as a marketing agency, you don't really touch, right? But we learned through just watching them do it, and finance and operations and things like that, where we weren't professionals at, but we decided that, okay, let's take the jump and learn those things, because while we're building up brands for other people and building their dreams, yeah, it's awesome to be a part of that journey. But what about us, right? So taking what we learned from the marketing world, which is quite literally after spending $25 million on Facebook, you learn a lot in brand building, right? So if we could do it for 25 others, why can't we finish it off for us,
And I guess it was a good choice if you see now what you have created with Obvi. But the growth that you experienced, so run me through a little bit about that. Like, you experienced a massive growth over a year. You reached 7 figures in 1 year, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about like how did you manage to keep everything under control? Because I can imagine for people that are starting up and that see that kind of a growth, and I mean everybody sees seven figures and everybody wants that, but what do you really need to have as a foundation to make sure that you can withstand the massive growth? What is needed?
No, it definitely was a difficult journey. Um, there's a ton of roadblocks, right? One being cash flow.
Mm,
Um, if for you to go from 0 to 100,000 is okay, you might need a PO. You might need a five-figure PO from your manufacturer, and you sell through that. Um, After we were working on the marketing agency, we did have a little bit of cash flow to kind of pour into Obvi. Um, but to go from like that six-figure to seven-figure is where it's very difficult because it's all about cash flow, right? If we're going all in on this brand, we can't take money out of the business. We have to keep reinvesting. And for about a year, we were kind of working on the agency and this at the same time,
mm,
where we needed to obviously cash that was coming from the agency needed to move into Avi, which allowed us to basically grow without getting investors and things like that,
mm,
and it allows us to keep our the full pie. Um, but basically, the biggest roadblocks is essentially cash flow. You're working day in and day out on this, and we only just started taking a salary, and it's been 2 years. So a lot of people need to understand is, yeah, you can achieve that growth, but you have to be able to manage um, your finances, and I think that's the biggest thing. And if you also don't have a grasp on the marketing, you're sinking money into Facebook
mm.
advertising and you're blowing your free cash flow, that's going to be your problem too. And so for us, because we are professionals in that field, we know the returns that we're looking for, and we need to be at in order for us to be profitable and to scale at a certain level. And that's pretty much where it was, but it wasn't easy. We were always considering, okay, we need to get money from the bank. We talked to different investors. They wanted 20% interest, things like
Mm.
that, where it's very difficult. And we wanted to grow the team, right? Just the three of us. We can't do everything, right? We need to, you know, but we stayed as lean as possible. We worked in a very small office at the time, only until we were able to achieve a little bit of growth and kind of increase that gap for cash flow, where we had a little bit of a cushion. Where now, okay, we don't necessarily need to hold back anymore. Now we can just invest a little bit more and more and more and hire people. Get better terms with our manufacturer as we were growing, right? As you establish trust with your manufacturer, your trust with your bank, your credit lines, your credit card companies. After you establish that trust, that takes about a year. Until those things are in place, it's very difficult to scale past that threshold. And I think now is that time where 2021 we're able to do so.
Yeah, that's a great story. And you talk about staying lean, so keeping the team in check as well. But indeed, like you said, you can't do everything yourself. So what was it, or what kind of a systems and what kind of a team did you put in place to make sure that everything could be stayed or kept under control? Being lean, what does it really mean for you?
So lean for us is, for example, the first hire that we actually did was a salesperson. So we hired somebody who's now our VP of sales to help us with retail, B2B business. Um, but the only reason we were able to take that step in that direction and actually afford, a full-time salary and things like that is there's a direct ROI, right? You're paying this guy salary. He should be able to bring in more business. He should be able to bring in revenue, right?
Mm,
So everything was very ROI focused in the beginning. If we're paying this guy $1,000, is he bringing back $3,000, $5,000? luckily, our VP of sales is just killing it, and he's, internationally he's blowing up Obvi. And starting off there, then it became 4. Then we realized as we start to grow, a focus needs to be the customer retention, right? The first 6 months is just acquire. You're barely making any profit because all you're doing is reinvesting. But now, how do we keep our customers coming back? And the next focus was customer retention, right? We needed to hire maybe customer service representatives to handle some of the issues that customers may have and make sure that they're staying within the brand, right? Or just our community manager who manages the group. Things like that really keep the customers in our, ecosystem. And those were, you may not see the ROI right away, but once those customers are coming back, there's a reason they're coming back, and it's because they're having a great experience. So that was the next hire. And then the next hire is going to be, finance. And then the next hire will be operations, which those things are, important pieces to have. But if you're trying to find somebody good for finance, they're expensive, right? Somebody who knows what they're doing, they're very expensive. Operations, very expensive. A good designer is very expensive. So those 3 key things, we try to keep in-house between the 3 of us. Like our background is, we have the marketing agency. Marketing can be a very big expense for other brands who don't have that experience. Luckily, we saved on that. Finance and accounting, myself and Ron, who's our CEO, we do come from a finance background. We have finance degrees. So as much as maybe we might have forgotten a few things from accounting class, we were able to handle it until now, which is, okay, now we have to focus on other things. We have the cash flow to be able to maybe afford somebody who can help us get to the next level. Maybe tackle different things like kind of restructuring our books and, figuring out a way for us to get better, terms with, our manufacturer and, and their better terms for their, suppliers and things like that. So that's where now we can kind of afford to invest in more strategic people. And they can kind of focus on those aspects while we can focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And being strategic is the point here, I guess. Not only strategic hires, but also being strategic in your communication. Because if you want to create a good relationship with your customers, but also with your suppliers, with everybody that is involved within a business, communication is a great thing, is a great deal. How did you go about making sure that communication was always on point with your customers, with your suppliers? Was that something that was naturally within you guys, or did you put something in place that could help with that?
No, it's a great question. So I'll tackle it with the customers first. The customers, like I said, we cultivated this group on Facebook, and it was the easiest way to communicate everything, right? Product launches, product restocks, any feedback about the product, everything like that happens on the group, right? And moderators and admins, typically these are fans of the brand that we've kind of brought in and say, hey, because you love the brand, we want you to be a part of it and maybe help us out, right? So we're able to get help on that side and be able to communicate better with our customers, and they actually have a face to put the brand to, right? Which is a little bit better than like, okay, you buying from a random brand, you don't know who owns it or where it's coming from. So it kind of puts customers at ease. And we've always just been transparent, right? We, anytime that we've maybe run out of stock on a product, we've made sure to never go into a back order. And even if in the rarest occasions that we do, we're very communicative about it to our customers, right? They appreciate the honesty. They'll stick with you, right? Things happen. They understand we're a small business, and they're willing to stick around and make sure that they get their products, or we'll send it out to them. But the experience is a little bit smoother, right? We'll be apologetic. We may offer, we have a rewards program for our customers. So anytime something bad happens, we'll make sure to reward them on our, behalf. But it's always about communication and making sure the customer is always happy no matter what. Because you've already spent to acquire them. Why are you gonna send them away, right?
Yeah.
In terms of maybe the supplier end, it's about trust, right? It's not even about the business that you're bringing them. It's literally about trust, right? So our manufacturer, they're, across the country, during the pandemic, it's very tough to travel, right? But this was during our peak season where we're now getting into Q4. We need to place a decent sized PO for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, the holiday season. But as this was at the time was a little bit bigger PO than we're used to placing, and they weren't comfortable because they didn't know if we could maybe afford it. So we took a risk. We flew out to them to meet them, sat down on the table, talk to them man to man, say, listen, we're not going anywhere. Here are our books. Take a look at everything. We want you to feel comfortable. But if we want to get to the next level, you guys got to help us. So it's more so, having that conversation with them, making them feel like they're part of the brand too, not just the supplier, right? They got to be part of the business as well. So, I think just communicating with them and being as transparent as possible is key.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. And although like communication is one thing, but also creating a business is also about creating that foundational piece, which is systems, right? If you think about the systems that you've put in place to make sure that we can keep growing and scaling, what were the most important ones?
It's a good question. I think in terms of, I guess, do you want to talk maybe specifically about like customer acquisition or more so like the manufacturing, like which?
Well, the thing that you said before our interview was about how you built out the systems in-house that allowed you to see daily sales trends across 20 SKUs and how many days of inventory was left and so on and so on. So
Right.
for your brand, for your business, these kind of systems, you've built them out. How important is this to make sure that you can keep growing and scaling? Because the question is, why I ask this question is because you see a lot of people starting out e-com businesses and they outsource everything and they think they're doing a great job. And most definitely they are. They earn a lot of money. But is it sustainable? Is it something that they can keep doing for years and years on end without putting some attention to building their own systems? You can outsource a lot of things, but you cannot outsource the foundation, right?
100%. No, so it's a great question. The way that we've tackled things and kind of we've seen other brands perform poorly in is being able to manage their cash flow, being able to manage their inventory, and their ad spend, right? So in terms of inventory, we in-house we've actually created a system literally on Google Sheets that will analyze our sales on a daily basis and tell us, okay, how many days left we actually have for inventory, right? So just with a little bit of Excel work and a few things like Zapier and Shopify, creating a system where we're ahead of the game, right? We need to know when we're almost 30 days, left of our inventory and 14 days and 10 days left, right? That allows us to never run out of stock or hit a back order, which is all about the customer experience. To cash flow, right? It's unless you got to be checking that every single day, right? You can't be taking money out of the business unless it's accounted for. The other thing is that you might see all this money coming into the brand, but you're gonna want to be like, oh well, I should pay myself because I've worked so hard and this and that. But okay, you're paying yourself. What are you gonna do with that money, right? What about the brand that needs to reinvest into a bigger PO? So you got to be cognizant of taking out money for personal needs or personal wants, or kind of throwing it back into the fire and producing even more with the brand, right? So creating those systems where there's a lot of checks and balances and making sure that you're on top of it, right? A lot of these brand owners, they go into it, they have, a bag of cash and they're like, okay, I'm going to invest this into my business and let's see where it goes. Um, some businesses don't turn a profit until maybe a year later, right? So you have to be able to prepare for that. So creating these systems of checks and balances, like I said, inventory, huge. Finance and cash flow is also massive. And, those are definitely the two things that if you can't nail down, you could run into a bigger problem. And all that is affected by your marketing spend, right?
Mm.
If you can't profitably spend, on Facebook or Instagram, then unfortunately you're out of luck, because that is where, the money is right now, and that's how you scale.
But you also mentioned that the marketing efforts should not only rely on those platforms.
Right, right. So you have to, like I mentioned earlier, you have to look at it as just um, customer acquisition, nothing
Mm.
more, right? So if you're just acquiring, and probably just breaking even or even losing a little bit of money, you have to stand by your product and your brand and make sure that they're coming back, right? 30 days later, 45 days later. You have to create some type of of a funnel where it's kind of not on autopilot, but you have to be okay with losing a little bit of money with these platforms, right?
Mm.
Once you start acquiring and you're building your community and these customers start coming back, it's easier for you to scale, right? Now it's like, okay, in a given day, I'm not at um 0% retention, right? I can invest a little bit more money into Facebook, knowing that, all right, my returns may be a little bit lower, but I have my customers who are repeat purchases, which kind of bumps up my return a little bit, right? um that's how we look at it. We look at our advertising spend to total revenue, and if we're within a certain KPI of either, then we're good to keep going. And people don't hit that until maybe 6 months to a year later, where your customers will start to help you, right, keep that buffer in
Mm.
increasing ad costs. But there's so many other platforms now, right? You got TikTok, you got Snapchat. Influencer marketing is very much alive. You just have to keep testing. And I think one thing that's interesting that we've done, which I don't see a lot of people doing, is and we like to kind of keep this close to us, but I'll let you in on it.
Nobody's listening. So.
Basically, what we've been able to do is, instead of reaching out to these influencers and kind of, how the whole influencer marketing is, we pay, you post, right?
Yeah.
That's it. You don't get that much traffic from these guys anymore. You're talking celebrities with, oversaturated pages.
Mm.
But the way that we're doing it is, okay, we're not going to pay you to post. We just want to pay you for content. Okay. And then what we do is we actually request access to their Facebook page and then run ads behind their page for our brand. Because we have that skill set of marketing, on Facebook and Instagram, the returns from influencer marketing are 10x what it could be if they just posted, right? So there's a few strategies that we've kind of come up with that have been a lot beneficial and a little bit more cost effective than your traditional just media buying on Facebook and Instagram.
That's a great tip for everybody that's listening or watching here.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Ashwin. Now, another question that pops up in my head is about culture. I'm pretty big, and I always try to tell people that they have to build great culture within their company if they want to have that client retention. They want to build a great team around them, so they don't have to spend too much time hiring other people or replacing your team all the time. How does the culture from your perspective looks like within Obvi, and what do you make or what do you do to make sure that it stays a good culture?
It's a great question. It's something that we think about all the time now, especially as we're growing. Um, we, for us as founders, we're going to put our blood, sweat, and tears into the brand, right? No matter what. You can't expect somebody else to do the same, because they're not it's not their brand, right? Unless you give
Mm-hmm.
them, equity and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who are, working with us, our customer service girls, our community manager girls, it's keeping them involved in everything, right? We're as transparent as we possibly can. We like to show them the numbers, what's going on. This way, they feel like they're a part of it, and they can see this growing, from the
Mm-hmm.
bottom, right? We keep them involved in, if we're coming out with new flavors, they're part of the taste test, right? They're part of the formulation process and the R&D. We ask them for opinion, like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Um, we try to also give them more responsibilities based on what they like to do, right? So, for example, one of our customer service girls, she's a huge Pinterest girl, right?
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out Pinterest ads. And I was like, listen, if you know Pinterest, the platform, like help me out here, right? So it's a little bit different, throwing different things at her in her day-to-day stuff, which is answering emails and customers and things like that. But maybe take 30 minutes out and help me with something that you're passionate about, right? So being able to kind of bring everybody in and show them what's going on and be transparent is very big to creating that culture, because then they may not have like the skin in the game, but they feel like
Mm-hmm.
they do. And at some point, if they continue to uphold that culture, it's something that as founders we look at, and who knows, maybe later down the line you'll never know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Ashwin, that you say that, because this is a topic that is disregarded pretty quickly by a lot of business owners, because they think, I don't have time for that. Why would I let somebody from my staff or from my team spend on anything else but the business, you know?
Yeah.
What would you say to some of those business owners that say, oh, no, no, that's not for me. Culture, come on, no, they just need to do their job.
Right. No, you can't look at them as just staff.
Mm,
They have to be, as as cliche as it sounds, they need to be family, right? We do uh, dinners as a company every couple months. We take them out, we treat them well, and make sure they're happy and they're not stressed out, right?
mm.
And in return, you do see their efficiency increase, because they want to do what they're doing. And to anybody who thinks culture isn't, big thing, I mean, put it this way: if somebody's working for you, they hate it there, they're going to leave right away, right? Then it takes more time from you to train somebody else and trust somebody else and things like that. So it's a really bad cycle to be in. Get some people that you can trust, or you obviously you're not going to trust them at first, but teach them, treat them well, and they'll probably pay it back, right? And that's just the way that it has to be. And I think it's a core thing to just growing your team in general, right? So, for example, we're thinking about moving into a bigger office because we have to hire more people, right?
Mhm.
That's not, we don't want that decision to just be on us three founders, right? We want the input of everybody else on the team. Like, you guys are coming here every day to work. Do you like the new office, right? So, when we're exploring those options, it's like, all right, come check it out with us. What do you guys think? Can you see yourself working here? Would you enjoy coming here every day? Things like that. It's not just us. It's everyone who's around us.
That's great. That's a great, yeah, way to do good culture, to create that culture and to create a great company. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that Obvi will be growing ever more like in the next couple of months. So what is the dream goal right now for Obvi? Where do you see it going?
So the goal for us is, I think, for the rest of this year, to continue launching different products. We're investing heavily in R&D. We're getting out new flavors once a month, new products every couple months, and we want to establish our presence in this industry. Right, we're here to stay. This is our second full year. We are here to stay,
Mhm.
um, and that's what we're gonna do. I think maybe year three, year four is more so focusing on customers and customer retention, right? How do we now provide a better experience for all these customers that we're continuously acquiring now. We want to start expanding into, the big box retailers and, your Costco and Walmarts, Targets of the world, Vitamin Shop. But I think that's the goal for the next few years, and see if we can, expand even more into the international waters. But we want to be a household name, and that's what we're aiming to do.
Cool. Sounds cool. So is it already available in Belgium? I'm curious.
So we not yet, but we are working on a few retailers throughout Europe.
Okay.
But right now it's being worked on for sure.
Yeah. Cool. So where can they find you? What is the best way to find Obvi?
Yeah, so myobvi.com, is our website. And then if you want to check out our community, it's just been growing like crazy. It's myobvi.com/group is a short link. So you can just go there and you'll be right in the group with 30,000 other people who love the brand.
That's cool. Great. So here is the link. Go to this link to get to the group and to experience what Obvi can do for you. I want to thank you, Ashvin, for coming on the show. I wish you a lot of luck, a lot of growth with the company, and let's keep in touch, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me. It was
Have a
awesome.
great weekend. Bye bye.
Take care.